Sign it, Dad, my brother said lightly, tapping the last page. It's not like she ever learned how to carry a family. She can carry her mood swings instead. Laughter scraped along the dining room walls. China clinked. Someone muttered, "Some people are born takers." I sat there with my palms flat against the linen, feeling the small shames stack like coins. Each joke, each side-eye, each story retold until it stopped being a story and started being my name. Hi everyone, my name is Maris Vale. People think silence is weakness. It isn't. It's the short hallway where you count doors and choose the right one. I breathed slow, listening to the clock tick like a metronome for humiliation. My father's pen hovered, then pressed, blue ink bleeding our history into a neat inheritance that skipped me like a stone over water. I stared at the bowl of lemons in the center of the table. Bright, waxy, bitter. The chandelier above us hummed. The air conditioner shivered. My brother's wife adjusted her bracelet and offered me a smile that wasn't a smile. "You'll be okay, Maris. You always land somewhere, don't you?" The word land felt like a shove. Dad didn't look at me when he slid the folder shut. "You need to learn self-reliance," he said, as if I hadn't spent the last 5 years stitching my life together from late shifts and little miracles. "Your brother will handle the properties. It's decided. It's decided." I tasted metal. I remembered being 8, standing on Grandpa's porch while he taught me how to listen for what the wind carried behind the leaves. "People talk loud," he said, "but truth walks soft." The memory flickered like a match. I folded it in my chest. "Any questions?" my brother asked, all magnanimous glow. He'd worn cologne like a trophy tonight. He liked endings. He didn't know some endings open their eyes. "Just one," I said, meeting his gaze. My voice was steady. My hands were steady. "Who taught you to confuse taking with winning?" The room thinned. Dad rubbed his temple. Someone snorted. The folder sat there like a sealed door. I imagined every key I didn't have and every lock I no longer wanted. Outside, wind brushed the hedge and the last of the daylight drained down the street, slow and stubborn. "Let it go, Maris," Dad murmured. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Harder. As if the hardness hadn't already arrived and found a chair. I stood, tucked my chair in, and smoothed the tablecloth that had wrinkled under my fingers. If grief is a storm, then I was learning the shape of its eye. Quiet, cold, a place where you can see everything. That was when the doorbell rang. 3 measured chimes, polite and precise. The kind of knock that belongs to someone who doesn't ask to be let in so much as document that they arrived. The air tightened as everyone turned toward the front door. Dad frowned. "At this hour?" My brother muttered, "Probably a delivery mix-up," and went to open it. But it wasn't a courier. It was a man in a gray suit holding a leather folder with gold initials embossed on the corner. "Jail and Associates, Grandpa's law firm." "Good evening," he said, scanning the table, eyes calm but exact. "Apologies for the interruption. I was instructed to deliver this envelope tonight, precisely 1 week after Mr. Harlan Vale's passing." My fork slipped from my hand. "Grandpa." My father's jaw shifted. "We already handled the estate. I'm his executor." The lawyer nodded once. "Indeed, sir. This isn't about the estate. This is a personal letter with an accompanying transfer document. It concerns Ms. Maris Vale." Every head turned toward me. The chandelier's crystals trembled in the air-conditioning draft, scattering light like tiny knives. My brother chuckled. Grandpa always had a soft spot for charity cases. The lawyer didn't flinch. "Mr. Vale asked that I read the first line aloud." He unfolded the letter, voice steady. "If you're hearing this, Maris, it means they've forgotten who taught them everything worth keeping." Silence crawled up the walls. He placed a certified document on the table. "This represents a monetary transfer of $2.5 million, to be deposited into Ms. Vale's personal account upon acknowledgement of receipt." Dad blinked hard, lips parting like the beginning of a protest. My brother's wife whispered, "2.5 what?" The lawyer continued, "It's derived from a trust fund Mr. Vale kept separate." He said, and I quote, "She'll know what to do with it because she knows what enough means." For a moment even the air refused to move. My father's pride cracked just slightly at the edges. My brother's confidence wilted like a wet match. I stayed seated, pulse steady. Grandpa's handwriting peeked from the corner of the envelope. Curved, stubborn, familiar. I met the lawyer's gaze. "Tell him, Thank you, I whispered, though he was long gone. The lawyer inclined his head. He said you'd say that. And in the hush that followed, I realized the house finally sounded honest. Dad followed the lawyer out onto the porch, voice low and sharp. Through the half-open door I caught phrases: ridiculous clause, manipulation, can't be binding. The lawyer's calm replies cut like measured piano notes. My brother stayed at the table, pretending to check his phone, but his knuckles whitened around the screen. When the front door finally closed, Dad came back pale and trembling. He says the transfer's already processed, he muttered. Irrevocable. My brother barked out a short laugh that sounded more like disbelief. So she just wins now? Because Grandpa decided to pity her? I stood slowly. No. Because he remembered what fairness looks like. He sneered. You'll waste it. You always do. Cars, art, feelings, whatever you collect to make yourself look deep. I smiled a small, dangerous smile. And you collect people. Let's see which of us keeps their collection longer. He shoved his chair back so hard it hit the cabinet. Dad sat down heavily, the sound of defeat louder than his words. Maris, don't let this turn ugly. Your grandfather's sentimentality doesn't change what you owe this family. Oh. I repeated, tasting the word. Funny how debt only exists when you can't control the balance. The room pulsed with silence. I took the envelope, pressed it to my chest, and walked out before any of them could find another insult to hide behind. Outside, the night smelled of wet asphalt and garden soil. The lawyer waited beside his car, headlights painting the hedge gold. He left you one more thing, he said, handing me a small key. Said it opens his favorite sound. I frowned. Sound. He smiled faintly. You'll know when you hear it. Then he got in his car and drove away, taillights shrinking like embers. I stood there under the porch light, fingers closing around the key's cold edges. Somewhere in the distance a wind chime tinkled, low, metallic and familiar. Grandpa's old piano workshop used to hang one just like it. Maybe that was the sound he meant. Or maybe it was something else entirely. Something waiting to be opened. The next morning I drove to Grandpa's old property at the edge of town. The workshop that smelled of cedar and oil, where he'd once built instruments for people who couldn't afford music stores. The door was locked, paint chipped, windows clouded with dust. The key fit perfectly. Inside the air was still but not dead. Dust drifted through thin rays of light. On the workbench sat his old piano, half restored, ivory yellowed, one leg uneven. Beside it, a sealed envelope with my name in his deliberate handwriting. For the day they try to erase you, open the notes that remember. I lifted the piano lid. Beneath the keys, folded inside a compartment, was a small black ledger. When I opened it, I gasped. Pages of handwritten records. Accounts, deposits, land titles. Every investment Grandpa had made quietly for decades. Each note ended the same way. For Maris, because she listens. Tears blurred the ink. I could almost hear him humming from his stool, that same off-key whistle that used to fill the whole yard. Outside, tires screeched. My brother's truck. He stepped out, face red with the kind of anger that doesn't think before it speaks. So this is where you hide your trophies? I closed the ledger calmly. Grandpa left this for me. You should go. He took a step forward, sneering. You think this changes anything? Dad will contest the will. He'll make sure you lose it all. I tilted my head. Then he'll have to fight a dead man's handwriting. Good luck. He froze, scanning the workshop, the shelves of tools, the lingering smell of varnish, the ghost of the man he used to obey. You don't deserve him, he hissed. I met his eyes. Neither did you. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the wind chime outside burst into motion, notes trembling like laughter. And for the first time in years, I didn't flinch at the sound of something breaking. That night, rain stitched the windows in crooked lines. I sat by the workshop's old stove, reading through Grandpa's ledger by lantern light. Each entry carried his quiet defiance. Small donations to strangers, receipts from land parcels my father never knew existed, and at the very end, a signature beside a title deed labeled Vale Workshop Trust. He had transferred ownership of the property to me 5 months before his death. He'd known exactly what he was doing. Lightning flashed. For a moment I saw my reflection in the piano's glossy lid, tired eyes, steady hands. The girl who used to seek permission was gone. In her place sat someone who finally understood legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you protect. I called my mother. She didn't answer. A few minutes later she texted, "Your father is furious. Please don't make things worse. He's saying you manipulated your grandfather." I smiled sadly. Manipulation. Their favorite word for anything they couldn't control. A knock interrupted the storm. I opened the door to find my brother's wife standing there under an umbrella, mascara smudged, voice trembling. "They're saying you forged everything," she blurted. "He's calling the bank first thing tomorrow." "Let him," I said. "The bank already verified the transfer." She hesitated. "I didn't know they'd go this far. He wanted to sell Grandpa's land months ago, but your grandfather refused." I looked past her at the dark road. "And now they'll learn what refusal feels like." Her umbrella tilted in the wind. "You're not scared?" I shook my head. "Fear's a habit I left at their table." She swallowed, eyes softening. "You sound like him." "Maybe that's the point." She left without another word, her footsteps echoing on wet gravel. Inside, I closed the door and placed the ledger back beneath the piano keys. The rain eased to a whisper, and when the final drop slid down the windowpane, I whispered back, "Thank you, Grandpa." "I hear you." Somewhere deep in the wood, the piano answered, one faint, perfect note, as if he'd just pressed a key. Morning broke silver and cold. I barely slept. The workshop smelled of coffee and dust when a car door slammed outside. Through the window, I saw Dad and my brother marching up the path in identical raincoats, soldiers on the wrong battlefield. Dad's voice cut through the air. "We're ending this nonsense today." He waved a folder of papers like a flag. "You forged his signature." I didn't move from the piano bench. "Then call the bank," I said quietly. "Ask them when the transfers were made." He hesitated. My brother stepped forward, eyes burning. "You think you're clever because some old man spoiled you? He didn't even trust you with the company, so he threw you pity money instead." I met his glare. "Then why are you here begging for pity too?" He flinched. Dad slammed the papers on the bench. "This family isn't your enemy, Maris." "Then stop treating me like one," I interrupted. "You signed me away years ago, remember?" Silence. Even the wind paused. I handed him the ledger, open to the first page, Grandpa's handwriting in that unmistakable looping style. Dad stared at it, lips moving silently as he read. "For Maris because she listens." His face softened just for a heartbeat, then hardened again like a man refusing a mirror. "He was old," he muttered. "Confused." "No," I said. "He was clear. You just never listened." My brother scoffed and grabbed the ledger, flipping through violently. Receipts fluttered out like feathers. "This proves nothing." But one sheet caught his eye. A notarized letter addressed to my lawyer Jel dated 8 months ago, confirming the trust's validity. His face drained. Dad turned to leave, murmuring, "We'll see you in court." "Then I'll bring him," I said, pointing to the piano. "Because every note he wrote is a witness." They didn't answer. The door creaked open, then shut behind them. When their footsteps faded, I pressed a key again. A pure, resonant tone filled the workshop, steady, defiant. Grandpa's favorite note, middle C. The sound lingered like a promise I intended to keep. They filed the lawsuit 2 weeks later. "Forgery, emotional coercion, undue influence." The headlines read after the local paper picked it up. I never imagined my family name would trend online for betrayal. But there it was, printed in black letters. At first, I hid in the workshop, half expecting Grandpa's spirit to tap the piano lid and scold me for caring what people thought. Then I realized, maybe this was his design all along. He'd known exposure was the only way to make truth echo. My lawyer, a patient woman named Evie, leaned across her desk during our first meeting. "Your grandfather was meticulous," she said. "Every signature witnessed, every transfer time-stamped, every account sealed years before his death. They don't have a case. They have ego." I almost laughed. That's the most dangerous kind. Court day came gray and damp. Dad avoided my eyes in the hallway. My brother couldn't. He glared, jaw tight, as if my calm was an insult. When the judge asked for documentation, I opened the same ledger gently, the one they'd once mocked as sentimental clutter. The pages whispered when I turned them. Grandpa's ink, clean and alive, carried more authority than any of their voices. Evie spoke with precision, each word measured like a chord struck true. My father's lawyer faltered halfway through cross-examination. "We concede the authenticity," he finally said. The judge nodded, signing dismissal papers within minutes. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Someone shouted, "How does it feel to beat your family in court?" I paused on the steps, rain misting my hair. "I didn't beat anyone," I said softly. "I just stopped losing quietly." That night I returned to the workshop. The ledger lay open beside the piano. I lit a candle, its glow painting the room gold. I played the one melody Grandpa taught me, slow, hesitant at first, then steady, the tune he used to hum when words weren't enough. Through the last lingering note I whispered, "They finally heard you." And maybe, just maybe, he heard me back. Weeks passed. The lawsuit dissolved like smoke, and with it the noise. My father never called again. My brother sent one text, "Hope you're proud." I didn't reply. Pride wasn't what this was. It was peace, the kind that comes when silence finally belongs to you. I spent my mornings at the workshop, sunlight stretching across the wooden floor where Grandpa's boots once rested. I cleaned the shelves, repaired the piano's broken leg, and hung his old wind chime by the window. When the breeze came through, it sang softly, like forgiveness learning a new rhythm. One afternoon a letter arrived from the same law firm. No envelope this time, just a small embossed card. "Maris, your grandfather requested that his workshop remain open to anyone who cannot afford lessons. The trust includes annual funds to support this. He believed music is freedom, and that you would understand how to share it." I sat at the piano and traced the grain of the keys, realizing the full shape of his plan. It was never about money. It was about continuity, the kind that outlives names and arguments. When the first student came, a shy girl with frayed braids and bitten nails, she asked if I'd really won a court battle against my family. I smiled. "No," I said, adjusting her fingers on the keys. "I just learned how to play a different tune." As she pressed her first hesitant note, I looked toward the corner where Grandpa's photograph sat, eyes alive even in black and white. For a fleeting second the air shimmered with something unspoken, something soft. Outside, a car slowed in front of the gate. Dad's silhouette sat behind the wheel, staring for a moment before driving away. No wave, no words. Just distance. I didn't chase it. Some goodbyes don't need closing. The girl struck another note, brighter this time. The chime answered. The workshop filled with quiet, defiant music. I closed my eyes, breathing in the scent of cedar and light, and whispered the only word that felt right.